And so one activity that I do is I have three specific moments in my life that give me a lot of confidence, and I can replay
Mm-hmm.
those very vivid memories. And if I'm having a bad day or a client said no or whatever didn't go my way, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of feeling like I'm off, I just take a minute, I close my eyes, and I just relive the highlight reel, right? And it's my
Mm-hmm.
three memories, my 3 minute highlight reel. And it's amazing. After I do that, I feel different, but I also like
Mm-hmm.
feel different, right? Like physically,
Exactly.
I start to
Yep.
feel like, man, my chest is a little bit lighter. It's not as
Mm-hmm.
upset.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Infinite Ability Podcast. I am your host, Nick Yerhart, and we are here to encourage each other to find our own unique abilities. Let's go. All right, everyone. So today I have Phil, and I can't wait for him to tell you what he does and share his story. So, Phil, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, my man. I'm excited to get to have a conversation with you today. But yeah, just a little bit about me. So I reside in Omaha, Nebraska, but run a rental real estate company here. So I buy properties and just do the long-term rental game. And then I own a
Mm-hmm.
financial planning practice. And then outside of that, much like you, I have a podcast that I run called Who Knew in the Moment. So I've been doing that for about 4 years now.
Oh, that's awesome. 4 years is actually a long time for a podcast. It's
It
like,
is.
I think it's like 90% of podcasts, dissolve within like 6 months or something. So, yeah,
Yeah, I think everyone thinks
good
they're
for
going to be
you.
Joe Rogan right at the beginning, and it turns out there's only one Joe Rogan, right?
Exactly. And everything takes time. So you just
Yes.
gotta stick it out, and eventually you'll get bigger and bigger. That's what I'm doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's awesome, and it's awesome that you're into real estate. Um, that's actually what started my entrepreneurial journey. Is I
Yeah.
wanted to get into real estate, so I started listening to the bigger pockets podcast, which I'm sure you know,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what started my whole self development thing that I went through. So it's really awesome.
So for you, I mean, when you started listening to bigger podcasts, what was the attractive thing, or what really got you going about real estate?
I've always liked real estate. I think it's because I've moved a lot in my life, so we're always looking at new houses. And then my dad had a business, so then we were looking at, industrial properties. So I don't know. To me, it was just like always really fun to go look at all these different properties. And
Yeah.
we had a few rentals ourselves, but it was always a single family.
Yeah.
And I knew that I did not want to do single family. I was like, at minimum, like a fourplex, otherwise apartment.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I know you're a 10X coach through Grant Cardone and Cardone University there, so
Mm-hmm.
you're probably very familiar with the um, real estate space. But it's always interesting. I think one thing that can be hard for people getting into real estate is just that financial capacity of needing to have 20% down if you're buying just a pure rental, right? Not if I'm going to live there,
Yeah.
but if I'm just buying a pure rental. And so you look, man, it's expensive to buy an eightplex, and then interest
Oh
rates are
yeah.
high, and you're like, that's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
money a guy's got to have. And so,
Yep.
I probably had a similar thought as you, where I was like, those are the attractive things for me, but what I have the financial capital to do today is buy a
Mm-hmm.
single family. And down the road, maybe I can sell that and move those funds over,
Yeah.
1035 exchange it, or, move
Mm-hmm.
those funds into a next real estate project. But, it's right there in the moment. You're like, well, I only have so much money to be able to do this project.
Yeah, and you gotta get started somewhere.
Yeah.
So like for me, I just didn't get started at all. So I just, I
Not
got.
yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet. Oh, I will. I know I will. But I got involved in the 10x business coaching. And I was like, all right, let's build my business that way, and then I'll have the capital to invest in real estate. So yeah,
I
that's
love
kind of the
it.
route I took.
That's great. Now, in your coaching business, I know you probably focus on a lot of different things. I mean, overcoming obstacles, the mental game.
Mhm.
I'm a lot like you in that regard, where it's like, well, it's just a lot of it happens in between, these two ears. But what do
Yep.
you focus on most?
So like as far as like mentally, I'm really focused on my mindset every day.
Yeah,
Just having that positive growth mindset, and like don't look at what might happen, like the negative things. Focus on what could happen, and then
yeah,
reach towards that. So like you know, I have goals that I write every day. So every day I'm doing something to get me closer to my goals.
yep.
So that's what I focus on every day. Is like doing the tasks that are gonna get me closer to my big, hairy, audacious goals.
I love that. And I think, to piggyback off that comment, there's so many um, moments in time where you see people at the pinnacle, right? Because you don't really take advice from someone until they've done something that you envy or
hmm
that you're, like, wow, it would be really cool if I could do that someday.
hmm
But it took a lot of repetition to get there. And I can relate to what you're saying in my financial planning practice. We track new business, and I don't know what it is, but a few months ago we celebrated our 520th week in a row of new business. So for
Awesome.
essentially 10 years straight, every week we did a new piece of business. And I share with people, I go, I when I had a 1 week of business, I didn't think, oh, well, what would it take to do 519 more weeks of this? I just said, all
hmm
right, I've got 7 days between now and a week from now. What do I need to do in the next 7 days to get me to be able to have a piece of business? So I think you're preaching the
Exactly.
right moment there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You gotta set your targets. You know,
Yep.
every week, every day, every month. Just set your targets and then do whatever it takes to get to them. You
Yep.
know.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you're just, incredible. I can tell we think a lot alike, so that's really awesome.
It is.
So, how do you spend most of your time?
Good question. I mean, I try and be very diligent with my time.
Mm-hmm.
I share with people, I forget the exact phrase, but, we overestimate what we can do in a year and we underestimate what we can do in a day. And
Yep.
I think that's true. For me. So, just to give a little context, I played basketball in college, but I was working. I was growing a financial planning practice at that time. And I would have like 12 minutes between classes. And so I'd take six of those and I'd go make phone calls to like set up meetings. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember my friends giving me a hard time. They go, Phil, it's 6 minutes. Like, what the heck does it matter? We can just check Facebook or, sit around. And I go, well, I just don't have a bunch of time. So I need to use these 6 minutes intentionally. And
Mm-hmm.
so, still to this day, I try and be very intentional with how I'm spending my time and what I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
with it. So, in the morning, I have a pretty structured routine. I like to look at our client's business, where we're at. Saturday mornings, I have a guilty hobby of updating everything real estate wise, like, hey, where are we at? Our taxes going up, our insurance is going up. I mean, whatever it is, and just
Mm-hmm.
checking in on that. And then just on a day to day, one of my guilty hobbies, the thing I probably love to do most, Nick, is have a cocktail on a rooftop patio. That
Oh,
is
there we
that
go.
that is like grade A for me. I'm a happy camper if I can have a cocktail on a rooftop patio. So
That's awesome. I, I like to have my cocktails as well, and I'm trying. I don't think I've ever had one on a rooftop. So I guess I gotta add that to the bucket list.
add it to the list before 2024 is over. Get a
Okay,
cocktail on a rooftop. It's a great
uh,
time.
will do for sure. That's awesome. So, what are you passionate about? I mean, yeah, you're into real estate, you're into the
Yep.
financial space, but what are you actually passionate about?
So the probably the two things that I would share with you, one is very specific and one is more broad.
Mm-hmm.
So this is probably, we'll just say 6 years ago. I had the opportunity to sit on a board for a pediatric cancer group. And long story short to it, Nick, I was having a bad day. I think some clients had said no, and I maybe didn't
Mm-hmm.
set enough meetings. Whatever it was. I had my version of a bad day, and I was driving to this board meeting, and it was at the pediatric hospital, and I'm walking in for the meeting. And once again, I'm not in a good mood. And anyway, I see probably a 6 or 7 year old that's bald going through chemo, and they just have
Mm-hmm.
the world's biggest smile on their face. And I go, man, I got no problems, right? Like, here's a 6 or 7 year old who is, fighting for their life, or at least to,
Mm-hmm.
get over this sickness, this illness. And I'm sitting here thinking I had a bad day. And so when I hear you ask the question, well, what are you most passionate about? It's really just about kind of infecting people with excitement and joy. I mean, at the end of the
I
day,
love that.
there are so many reasons you can have a bad day, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also a way higher number of reasons that you can have a great day.
Yep,
And
there is.
a story that I'll share is, so Disney World, I think it was about 10 years ago, did a survey of people that visited Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting because they sent out two different surveys. And one was, Nick, on a scale of 1 to 10, rank your time at Disney. And the average score was like 9.6. Or
Mm-hmm.
no, it was 9.2. It was 9.2. So people said 9.2 out of 10, Disney's a great time. Then
Mm-hmm.
they sent out a second survey, and it was a list of 5 different things. And it was like, how would you rank your time waiting in line? How would you rank the cleanliness of the restroom? How would you rank your kids' time? All those things. And it was 5 questions. And the average score on those 1 through 10 was like a 6.8. So the question of how was your time was a 9.2, but when you broke it
Mm-hmm.
down, it was actually a 6.8. And I kind of thought about that and go, that's kind of like life, right? If I
It is.
decide at the end of the day I'm going to focus on the thing that was the greatest part of my day, I'll feel like I have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of 9.2 days. But if I
Mm-hmm.
looked at everything that happened in my day, I probably have a lot of 6.8 days. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we get to pick what we put more precedence on, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
just choose to be more excited about things than focus on the things that make me frustrated or make me angry
Yep.
instead. So that would be like my biggest passion there, is just, yeah, bringing excitement and joy to people, because I think it's too easy to get caught up in the things that maybe aren't as important.
That's amazing. And I do the same thing a lot of times. I try to be as happy as I can and just kind of be that, beacon of inspiration for others. That's what I enjoy.
Well, I'd love to ask you about that. I mean, I know in your
Mm-hmm.
journey, I mean, gosh, from birth, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think if I understand your story right, when you were born, it
I
wasn't even a
died.
guarantee. Yeah, you were going to be
Yeah.
alive. And
Yep.
then, go through life with cerebral palsy. So, I mean, talk a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about that for you, just in regards to, where you find your joy and excitement from, even though having had to battle through those tough times.
Yeah, for me, the battle kind of turned into a game.
Mm,
That's kind of how I look at it. It's like,
yeah.
the doctors and experts were always telling me the things that I can't do. Well,
Mm,
then I turned it into, okay, well, I'm going to figure out how to do it just
yeah.
to prove you wrong. So, first it was I would never walk. And I started walking at age 5 because my dad asked me if I wanted to learn how to walk. And
Yeah.
I said yes. So then him and my mom worked with me for like a year and just helped me, get the strength and the balance to be able to walk on my own.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first, you know, situation where I was like, okay, what they say is not actually like factual.
Yeah.
So, you know, my whole life has been things like that,
Yep.
like I started riding a bicycle at age 8. That was something that they said I would never do. And then at age 11, I raced four wheelers. So I raced a motocross for a year. You know, who saw that coming?
Yeah.
you know, so and I've always been into anything with an engine.
That's
I
awesome.
love cars, four wheelers, dirt bikes, everything. So for me, once it was time to get my license, the doctor said that I can't.
Yeah.
So then we we fought for like 6 months to a year, and I went through a whole bunch of testing with the doctors and everything like that, and then finally I was able to get my license. So it's just like, and I don't use any adaptive equipment in the car. Nothing. I actually don't use adaptive equipment at all in my life. I did when I was a kid, and what I didn't like is the fact that I had to have it in order to do whatever task. So I felt like I was held back or restricted. So then I just decided I'm going to figure out my own ways to do everything. So that's what I do. Yeah.
I love it. Well,
Thank you.
I share this with you on the my second passion then is, so financial literacy is obviously a hot topic and not something
Mm-hmm.
that, schools teach a bunch about. But I think one misconception a lot of people have is that, the wealthy get wealthy because they had an amazing idea or they had this great inheritance, right? And whatever it is. And it was interesting. I did some research on this, and the average inheritance in America is $17,000.
Mm-hmm.
And you sit there and you go, well, that means that, there's 50 people that got $0 and there's, someone that gave $1 million, and that's how we got to whatever, 17,000. But you just sit there and you think about that and you go, man, that's not a lot of money that people can pass down from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was about 20 years old, I had somebody ask me the question. They said, Phil, can you name me your great grandparents? So the 8 great grandparents that you have. And I go, no, they were all passed away by the time I was born. And he
Mm-hmm.
goes, Phil, that's how quickly your legacy ends. And I go, wow,
Wow.
like that's really crazy to
Mm-hmm.
think, right? Within a family's generation, it's like, man, 3 generations later, and people don't even know your name. And
Mm-hmm.
so I said to myself, man, what's something that people will always remember? And oftentimes it's the financial impact that you can have. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is something that I myself think about a lot for myself, but also with our clients is, well, what do you want your financial impact to be long term, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's great to be able to buy yourself a house. It's great to be able to retire someday, but how cool would it be if you can change the trajectory for your family and
Mm-hmm.
see what they could accomplish or see what opportunities they could have based on your hard work. And so that's something that I'm super passionate about with our
Yep.
clients in the business spaces. Hey, how can we maximize what you're doing today with the resources you have? Money's a
Mm-hmm.
finite resource. How can we give it kind of infinite or endless possibilities?
Yep. I love that. And that's, one of my goals is, to have enough wealth to create that generational wealth that it
Yeah,
can be passed down over and over. And, you know, like for me, like, I don't know if I'll have any kids. I'm not sure if I want any, but,
yeah,
um, I have a nephew right now.
yeah.
So for me, it's like, what can I pass down to him? And I know one thing, that whatever he gets from me, he's gonna learn how to handle it. Because
Yep.
you can get you can win a couple $1,000,000, and guess what? If you don't know how money works and what to do with it, it'll be gone.
That
You know, if
yes.
you, it's that's just how it is, and I see it all the time. But you see people that make more money, and yet they still live the same way. It's like,
Yep. You're
yeah.
exactly right. I share this frequently. I say you can't uh, outsave a bad spending habit. You just can't earn more. You'll just continue to spend more. We see that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You thought you were high on the hog when you had $100,000 of income. Then all of a sudden you're making 200,000. You say, well, gosh, certainly I could put more away, but you get the bigger house, you get the nicer car, you're taking better
Mm-hmm.
trips now, and all of a sudden, man, there goes that extra 100,000 that you thought you're going to have.
Yep. That's what, like, for me, I'm gonna I've downsized a lot over the past year. I got rid of all my fun toys, fun cars. At at one point I had 9 vehicles. So that was about a year and a half ago. And I'm down to like 4, I think. But
Still a good amount, but half of
yeah,
what we had, right?
exactly. So, I got rid of my side by side. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take like 5 years and just live, small, basically, and just see where I can get in 5 years. You
I
know,
love it.
so like just build a business, invest into real estate, and just see what I can do.
You'll be able to do more than you can even imagine, Nick. So just keep it up, brother.
Oh yeah, I will. I will. Awesome. Well, it sounds like you've done, a lot of work on your, mindset and self-development.
Yeah.
You know, have you just always been like that, or did something, happen that made you go down that road?
Great question. What I would share, the probably earliest time frame I can remember thinking about these things was I was in fifth grade, and a mentor of mine gave me a book, and it was called Mind Gym, and it was essentially kind of like psychology and sports coming together. Which today there's a lot of that, but at that time it was kind of like the only book I'd ever encountered, and
Mm-hmm.
it talked about the mental preparation before the game. It talked about how you can think about how things are going to go, and thinking about how, if things go wrong, how you would react, right? And I just
Mm-hmm.
remember thinking this was such transformational thoughts, right? Because I had never really thought about it. I just hoped it would go well, and then we'd see what would happen. And so
Yep.
that was kind of like the beginning introduction to me for like the ideas behind it. And then really ever
Mm-hmm.
since then, I've just always loved taking in content and,
Mm-hmm.
learning. And I think one of the biggest realizations that I had, I was probably around 20 years old, was I can do something to change the way I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think
Yep.
so frequently something happens to us and we think, oh, well, I deserve to be in a bad mood. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This happened. No, you know what? It's my right to be mad. It's my right to be sad. And it's like, it is. But is that
Mm-hmm.
serving you? Right.
Yep.
And
Not usually.
exactly. And I was saying the reality is maybe for about 5 minutes, maybe 10
Yeah.
minutes. But if it's starting to take longer than that, it's like, well, now
Mm-hmm.
you're just ruining your own day because you're letting
Exactly.
this have impact. And so that's been a huge focus of mine. And I think in
Mm-hmm.
business specifically, but also in relationships and sports, it's like the quicker you can turn and, move from that, the better off
Mm-hmm.
you are long term. Right.
Yep.
And so one activity that I do is I have 3 specific moments in my life that give me a lot of confidence, and I can replay
Mm-hmm.
those very vivid memories. And if I'm having a bad day, or a client said no, or whatever didn't go my way, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of feeling like I'm off, I just take a minute, I close my eyes, and I just relive the highlight reel, right? And it's my
Mm-hmm.
3 memories, my 3-minute highlight reel, and it's amazing. After I do that, I feel different, but I also like
Mm-hmm.
feel different, right? Like physically,
Exactly.
I start to
Yep.
feel like, man, my chest is a little bit lighter. It's not as
Mm-hmm.
upset. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was a big moment for me, realizing like I can control the way that I'm feeling and the thoughts that I'm having.
Yep. That's awesome. And I just want to piggyback on that because you talk about how if you are angry or whatever, you're doing something to get yourself out of it as quick as you can. And one of my mentors, his name is Rob Dial. He says if you are mad, if you're upset, whatever it is, set a 5-minute timer and freak out. Do what you gotta do for 5 minutes, and then once that timer goes off, you're not allowed to be mad or upset anymore.
Yeah.
And that's something that really has helped a lot.
Yeah, well, and something that I would just mention with that, because I think sometimes people can hear that and hear, oh, well, I should just suppress the feeling, and it's like, well, no, don't do
No.
that, right? That's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
That'll come
No.
up in a month, a week, a year. I mean, whatever the
Yep.
time frame is, and it's going to be worse than ever. Um, Take time to deal with it, but don't let one event ruin a week, right? There's so
Exactly.
many other
Yep.
amazing things going on. But to your point, set a 5-minute timer, be pissed off, be
Mm-hmm.
mad, whatever it is. But once that 5 minute timer hits, it's like, all right, now what can I do to change this? Right now, what can I
Exactly.
do to get
Yep.
myself on track?
Yep. You hit the nail on the head. Oh, awesome. Awesome. So, you know, I can tell, you've got your own mentors.
Yeah.
So, how many mentors do you currently have?
So it's a good question. And one thing I would say about mentorship is kind of realizing the seasons of life.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of mentors across my life, and some of them were really good for a year's time frame, and then for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, our relationship just didn't really continue on. But I learned a lot in
Yep.
that moment. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
others that are more active. I had lunch today
Mm-hmm.
with a guy that I would call a mentor. He's really a friend, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a mentor for me, and we get together probably every other month, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say to that, I would say today I probably have really three main mentors
Yep.
that
Same here.
I'm kind of constantly trying to take information and
Mm-hmm.
ideas from. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I would just give as advice to anyone listening is if someone is willing to become a mentor for you, see how you can repay them, and it doesn't have to be financially.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool when people are willing to give time and knowledge and what they want in return. And
Yep.
one of my mentors, it's, hey Phil, I would love for you to report back to me on what you did with
Mm-hmm.
the knowledge I gave you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he wants
Yep.
to make sure that it's not just an hour of
I
his
like
time
that.
that's gone. It's, hey, tell me
Mm-hmm.
what you took from this and then how you're implementing it. And I think that's good. And then I have a business coach that I work with, so probably just like
Mm-hmm.
what you do for your clients.
Yep.
It's amazing. We spend time together, and he and I have coached together for about 7 years now. And
Wow. Wow.
I tell people frequently, I go, when it first started, it was a very like business relationship, right? I was
Mm-hmm.
paying him, he was giving me advice. I was paying him,
Mm-hmm.
he was giving me advice. And now, I think he would echo this, but I would echo it as well. He's really a friend that I happen to
Mm-hmm.
do business coaching with.
Yeah.
And I think that's the goal for a lot of those types of relationships.
Exactly. Yep. I agree. Well, that's so awesome. So my slogan is your abilities are infinite. What does that mean to you?
Something you said earlier would just tie directly into this, and you had just talked about how the doctors told you there were so many things that you wouldn't be able to do, but then
Mm-hmm.
your dad said, "Hey, do you want to walk?" And at 5, you're like, "Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's do this walking thing." And at 8, you were riding a bike, and then at 16, you
Mm-hmm.
drove a car, right? Like all those things. And so when you say that to me, I think what I think about is I want to be true to myself, and my capabilities of what I want to accomplish are
Mm-hmm.
endless. But what
Yep.
I think a lot of people get caught up in is one, doing things to appease other people, and
Mm-hmm.
two, listening to the doubts of other people. And so when I hear you say, hey, it's endless, it's you can do whatever you'd like, I agree, and I think but it's whatever you like, right? And so
Exactly.
a topic that I've been kind of juggling is like the lifestyle business owner where you make enough money where you can kind of do whatever you'd like and you've
Mm-hmm.
got flexibility and autonomy versus the pure potential. Like, I just want to see how big I could possibly get. And
Yep.
what I found with a lot of those people in my life that have maybe taken that route is to get as good as you can at business or to grow the business as big as you can, it comes at a sacrifice, right? And the
Yep.
sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
is maybe it's relationships or it's doing your fun hobbies or it's being able to relax more, right? Whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. And I think that's the balancing act for a lot of us in a business realm is, am I pursuing my best possible potential, the endless possibility, or am
Mm-hmm.
I pursuing what I truly want? And I think sometimes in today's world, if you truly want to be a business owner that just has a really great life and a great lifestyle, it can almost feel like you're being looked down upon because you don't want to be the biggest and you don't want to have the most. And I think that's the juggling act. So what I would say to you on your question, very long-winded answer, is that's where my head goes, is like, find out
Yep.
what you truly want, and then
Mm-hmm.
don't just appease others, don't listen to all the negative things people say, but
Mm-hmm.
figure out what you really want and then certainly you have been given the skills, the gifts, the abilities to accomplish that.
Yep, I love that. Amazing. Thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, so how can people find you and reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So on social media, the tag is Fill the Cup. So go check that out. Or if you want to listen to
Okay.
the podcast, it's called Who Knew in the Moment. And then on LinkedIn, it's Phil Friedrich, and Friedrich is spelled Friedrich. So you can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn that way.
All right, awesome. And I'll drop your links in the show notes so everybody can find you.
Awesome. Well, Nick, I want to say thanks so much for having me on, and keep doing all the amazing things you're doing. Your story is awesome, and it's just the beginning, brother. The best is yet to come.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you. If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me in the Nick Yerhart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit, because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors. So let's just get it out there by word of mouth and help more people. Alright, everyone. Remember, your abilities are infinite.